Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast,
where we are declaring Jesus Christ is Lord of everything in our lives, us individually, but also He's Lord of the cosmos, which means Jesus is pretty much in charge of everything that exists. That's what gives us hope. That's what gives us comfort. And we encourage you, if this is a new thought to you, the greatest thing you can do right now is just pause and say, Jesus, I submit my life to you, and recognize your greatness and your expertise over every little minute detail of our lives. And that's what we try to flesh out here every week. So it's good to be back together. If you're watching again, maybe just recently, you're noticing we're in a new studio. We're so grateful for the efforts of so many of our staff and team that love so well and use their gifts so well, but especially Joel D. Joel, we wish you a blessing as you're starting a new venture out in California with your brother-in-law. And also want to thank Marissa Abbott for her wonderful decorating skills. So it's nice to be in this new studio. This is the second podcast that we're recording in this studio. And I'm still trying to get used to all the newness. It's nice. We actually have decorations and all kinds of cool stuff.
I see everything clearly with the nice lighting.
Nice. So anyway, let's try not to screw it up. Let's do something productive today as we do that. But anyway, at Living Stones, I just want to say, part of our belief in life is that you need a local church. Yeah. You need people in your life. You don't need to be alone. You'll never be the best version of you for the glory of God by yourself. It's a team effort. And one of the things we believe strongly in at Living Stones is something that Pastor Andrew has provided great oversight and help in is the area of life groups. So talk about that. We just started, Sunday launched a brand new.
This coming Sunday we're going to launch our fall semester of our life group. Our life group is our semester schedule. It's kind of like school.
And we've got great people all over the region. In fact, got an idea how many life groups we're launching this year?
Oh, I don't know how many number. We're launching like 4 new life groups, along with, we might have like 15 or 20 life groups.
All over the region.
Yep.
So, and different nights of the week. So there's what we're trying to say is there's something for you. A place for you to fit and belong.
Yeah, if you are interested in finding a life group, our life group calendar or list is on our website, lstones.org. There's some wonderful people who really looking to know you. We want to build communities. And these small community, as we're going to talk about today, is really where you grow.
Yeah.
You know, the larger settings, church setting is great. You receive a great teaching, but it's hard to really know others and be known. And the small group is where that really happens.
And one of our commitments, no matter how God blesses us with the ability to love people and care for people as our church family grows. I know we both share the commitment that we want to be high touch. We want to be highly relational. It's not about people, numbers, stuff like that. It's about individual relationships with people. We want to grow people. We don't want to grow various ministries at Living Stone. So we value you. We love you. We want to see you come to know Jesus. We want to see you get your heart healed, and we want to see you become all that the Lord's called you to be. And a vital part of all that is relationships and connection and community. So.
Yeah, we're about growing people. That's our vision at Living Stones. We're about growing you. And we want to do it how Jesus did it. He grew people through giving them a teaching. So it's a curriculum. He grew people by giving them a task. He sent them out 2 by 2. But he also grew people through relationship. He was deeply ingrained and relationally connected to his disciples. Yeah. They knew him personally. Yeah. So
they did life together.
They did life together.
I love that. He sends them out. They see people healed. They see people delivered from demonic spirits. He comes back, and then he has a little debriefing and they're probably having some food.
Yeah,
and
they connect.
They're laughing. They're talking about what went on.
Sends them back out. And so that's the formula. It's very simple to grow. So even for us in the context of life group, it's not just for life group. It's so that you can grow. Because growth happens best when there's a relational component to it. So.
Yeah, I love it. So and we, if you're just tuning in, we've been doing a series where we're focusing on Dr. Henry Cloud's book called Integrity, which is one of our favorites. And he is laying a foundation in that book of really a multifaceted understanding of what integrity is and how if you don't have integrity, you're not going to be successful in what God's called you to be and to do. And so we've been breaking down each of these 6 components and working our way through them. Today we're going to talk about the next one, which is being oriented toward increase, or this idea that you're getting better all the time. It's really an understanding that if a person of integrity, I guess, doesn't stay static. Yeah. they're flexible, they're malleable, they're oriented towards growing.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. He makes a distinction between a difference between problem solvers and growers.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a little bit first.
I thought that was a great distinction. Growing is something that you and I are both passionate about, hence the vision of our church. We're about growing people. And the distinction between a problem solver and a grower is a problem solver is kind of more passive. They wait till something's wrong.
Okay.
They come in and they're like, okay, I'm going to restore to his former glory, which might not be a bad thing because you're restoring to his former potential. But the growers think differently. Mm-hmm. They're not just trying to troubleshoot. They're proactive. They're always thinking, how could this be better? How can we take this to the next level? Problem solving to me is if you get sick, you go see the doctor. The doctor said, hey, this is not functioning, fix you, whatever, surgery, whatever. But the grower is thinking, how can I even be healthier? How can I work out? How can I gain more muscle mass?
So much of our medical community right now is based on a model of you get sick, you come in, we fix the problem.
Right.
Or we try to fix the problem. We'll give you a shot, we'll give you some medicine, we'll take a few pills, we'll provide surgery, we'll take out a bad organ or whatever it is. But what we're saying is a growth mentality says, wait a minute, I don't want to be sick. What am I eating?
Yep.
Why am I not exercising? How come I don't have good balance in my life? I don't rest enough. Yep. In other words, let's be proactive to do things that keep me healthy for the long term instead of waiting for my body to break down.
Yep.
But this works not just with bodies. This works with relationships.
Every arena.
I mean, so either you're going to have a mentality that says, hey, how do we grow a healthy staff, for instance, or you're going to always be having meetings with broken relationships and dealing with the same relational friction all the time. Or how about this? How do we have a great marriage?
Yeah.
Let's figure out how I can be. I love it when men say, Pastor, I want to be the best husband I can possibly be. Can you help me be the best husband I can possibly be? If you're married to a man that has a vision for growth in his marriage, you're going to have a great marriage.
Absolutely.
Or you're going to say, Pastor, can we meet with you? Our marriage is a wreck, and it's her problem, and I just wish she would figure out how to do this, and I'm so sick and tired.
Right.
And that's usually what we deal with when the thing's blowing up.
Right. So a person of integrity is a person who's thinking ahead. How can I grow? How can I grow a marriage, my relationship with my kids? How can I grow our organization so we can be more profitable or we can reach more people for Jesus?
That's so good.
How can we connect people better? How can we disciple people more?
So even though our last episode, just to clarify, talked about leaning into problems, there are situations where we do have problems. We're fallen people. So what we're saying here is problem solving is still good. We need to lean into problems.
Yes.
But you need to add another skill set to that, which is we're going to be growers. We're going to be people with an emphasis. Like we're going to nip the problem in the bud as much as we can by focusing on growing ourselves and growing others to where problems are fewer and far between. We're still going to have problems. Life's full of problems, but it is a proactive. Let's avoid the problem in the first place type of mentality that we're trying to cultivate in people.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was really, really good. But here's the problem. People run into all kinds of internal stuff again when it comes to growth because there's a lot of fear. I mean, when you mention growing, the growing person is stepping into territory where they've never been before.
Yeah.
And we talked about this. Kids are kind of wired to take risks and grow because, they've never failed. They don't know sometimes of the pain that's associated with doing something maybe they shouldn't have tried. But kids are growers. And usually we have to tell them, hey, don't do that. Don't jump off that chair. Don't touch that. It's hot.
In general, they'll take risks. Yeah.
Why is it that we as adults are not really oriented by nature towards growth?
Yeah, most people are not oriented to try new things or do different things. Now, I think Henry Cloud contends that, as a child develops, for many of us, because a lot of negative feedback, criticism, failure,
I love
fear.
it. He says maybe you grew up being you were the blame container. That's who you were. In other words, your parents just always piled blame on you for everything that went wrong, and so now you're like, I don't even want to try anything because I'll get slapped, I'll be blamed, I'll be ridiculed, whatever, attacked.
Right. I thought he said this one thing. It's like, as a child, if you don't learn this crucial principle that trying helps, that you won't really want to grow. Trying helps. Because so many times we just stop doing things because in our head, we just tell ourselves, it doesn't matter anyway I do. So I'm not even going to try, right? Whether it's praying, reading my Bible, going to church, it could be a relationship. You might be a husband, a wife who's complaining to her husband and he just tunes her out. Eventually she just stops trying, right?
I think it's that hope deferred thing, and maybe some of you can relate. We all have these situations, and we see this a lot in marriage. In fact, I've one of the saddest things to be a part of as a pastor is when you're in a room with two people whose marriage has died, and the way that it died is because one party or the other continues to have hope for change. Hey, will you work on this? Can we work on being better communicators? Hey, will you work on these character issues that keep just destroying me? Your words, your negativity, your lack of integrity. You lie, you don't tell the truth, you don't follow through. All of these things, if they're not addressed, they create a slow numbness to where people's hearts just get disengaged. And the worst sign you can have in anybody's life is where they just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care. I have no desire. I'm done. There's no passion. And when you lose desire, you're one step away from losing it all.
Yeah, it's
and we believe, again, Jesus can resurrect any relationship, but there's got to be a willingness, again, for that person to grow. Like, just show your spouse that you want to grow. And we tell people all the time, one of the best ways you can tell your spouse that you're committed to a healthy relationship is make a commitment to show up at marriage class. Just the fact that you are there says with your body, this relationship, this marriage matters. And we're going to work on it. And just to show you that I want to work on it, we're going to attend and we're going to listen and we're going to process this and we're going to try to grow together. If you have a willingness to grow in whatever arena you're in, there's no end to the potential. There's no end to the success that you can experience. But if you are rigid, and we talked about this. Give us a science lesson here. Second law of thermodynamics. This is part of the reason, too. By nature, I've heard it said, like, you take a rock. Our human nature is like the rock. You take a rock, you drop it into a pond. Mm-hmm. What does the rock do by nature? It doesn't float. No. It sinks to the lowest place. And that's what fallen human nature does. It sinks to the lowest place.
Yeah, an example that Henry Cloud gave was that, for those who remember their high school physics class, the second law of thermodynamics says any closed system by itself will becomes more and more disorder or has more entropy. Yep. Okay, it breaks down by itself. Decays. The only way that it can be more organized is an infusion of energy from outside this closed system to come in to infuse it. And he takes it to growth. He's saying basically, if you're a closed system, if you don't think you ever need help on your own, you're not going to grow. So how do you actually grow? You need an infusion of new material, new life, new system, whether it be a new book or a podcast or a curriculum. Yep. How about a new person, a coach, a mentor to come into your life? That's
so this
how you
is
can
like
grow.
So here you are, you're like a terrarium, right? And we take the lid off and we're saying, look, we're going to infuse some fertilizer and some light and some other plants or whatever it is, but we're going to help this environment thrive if we're that environment. Yeah. So sometimes we need we need an outside set of eyes, perspective, challenge, encouragement, ideas. Sometimes a fresh idea
absolutely
can change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty oriented to growth. Like, I want to grow my whole life, and I realize I cannot grow on my own. Like, even reading a book or so and a podcast, which I do a lot, it helps me to a certain degree. But the true source of growth has to be people to give me context. I was sharing with someone else is, what? Growth is as simple as someone just telling you, hey, here's your blind spot. Here's an area that everyone else sees that there's spinach in your teeth, but you can't see it. I have enough relationship with you to build relationship with you, like when we talked about last time, so that you trust them and for them to point out this is the area you got to grow in. That's it. Build relationship, okay? Yeah. And then tell your blind spot.
Because here's the deal, we can have all the theoretical concepts. Like, you can read books till you're blue in the face and get new ideas. But at some point, that idea's got to translate into behavior.
Yep.
Like I've known people that are experts on their dysfunction. Have you ever met those people? They've read so many books about why they're so messed up. Like they can tell you, well, I'm this way, and I have this disorder, and I have to take this medicine, and I've been to these 4 doctors, and I've been in therapy for 14 years. They know their dysfunction inside and out.
Yeah.
The problem is they haven't applied one step towards not being broken and dysfunctional. Right. So it doesn't do you any good to be able to philosophize about growth. At some point, you got to do it. Like if you want to strengthen a muscle, at some point you have to show up at the why. I mean, you gotta go work out. You got to show up at the gym. You have to lift a weight if you want to build that muscle. If you want to grow spiritually, it's the same way. Like I love this, when we do our discipleship groups, one thing that's a big challenge for many men is they're not the greatest readers, or they're not the greatest writers. School was not a strong point, but they're great with their hands, and they're great working, and they have strengths. It's just that's not one of them. So one of the challenges is, hey, will you take a risk with me? Will you go on a journey with some other men? Will you come under the yoke of discipline? And can you read one relatively short book a month? You can. We believe in you. You can. And what I find is that when men embrace that challenge in the context of a healthy environment, and you've seen this, when they get to the end of that experience, they've read 9 books. They haven't read 9 books in their whole life. And now, because of the growth that's happened, new habits begin to form. Yeah. And what I love is when we've started the process, but now that process continues because they've internalized it.
Yeah, you talk about another principle, because growth begets growth, and stagnation begets stagnation. Yeah. Because if I don't want to grow and I shut my wife down and I don't listen to her voice, she gets shut down. It's like the baby who's never been held. It just cries and cries, and no one comes and give it attention. After a while, the baby stops crying. It's become numb. A part of his or her heart has died. Yeah. And same thing. So my lack of growth leads to my family's lack of growth, and it's cascades, and they hurt other people, and et cetera, et cetera. But when I come to life, when I'm embracing growth, when I'm embracing life, now my wife sees me growing. She's infected by that. She wants to grow. My kids want to grow, and on and on. So what we want to do is build a community of growth, and then it takes each other to say, yeah, you can read a book all day, but when you have someone who loves you, but challenges you to say, hey, you're saying this, but you're not actually doing this. Yeah, that's when the growth truly happens.
In our marriages too, we often accuse our spouse of nagging, but really, what's happening is they're voicing something that's important to them, and the other spouse is not listening. And when the other spouse is not listening, and you keep saying, "Honey, would you do this?" or "Babe, when you talk to me that way, this is how I feel." Yeah. Or whatever. After a while, when it's interpreted as nagging because there's no response, that part of that spouse's heart just shuts down, and they stop dreaming, and they stop believing. They just assume this is my reality. So if I want it changed, I'm going to have to go another direction. And this is why affairs and all these things happen all the time, is because somebody listens, or somebody responds, or somebody cares. And that's a dead area of your spouse's heart that all of a sudden comes alive in an ungodly way. And so we have to keep growing. In fact, you brought up a good point. When you're in a marital relationship and one of the spouses quits, it's really unfair to the covenant that you made with that person, because you can't have a growing marriage that involves 2 people when one person quits. Yeah. And so maybe we can transition there. What can you share with people who are listening? Like how do you help people grow? As a friend, maybe someone's listening saying, I want to grow better, but I also want to help my kids grow, or I want to help my spouse grow. What do we do? And what are some practical things?
Some practical things I do with my kids is I articulate to them that everything we do is about growing. It's not about, so when he goes to soccer practice, I don't care, or a soccer game, I don't care how many goals he scores. I don't care if he's the best player or the worst player. It doesn't matter. I communicate to him, my goal is for you to learn and grow in something. In fact, when you fail, I love it. I celebrate him when he trips or falls, he makes a mistake, because that means there's an opportunity to grow. Now, I don't want him to make the same mistake 10 times.
Right. So I love this, because some kid will go out there and go, wow, I'm not going to play soccer because those 5 people there are definitely better than me now. Yeah. So it's not about comparison. It's really about, how do I personally take my life, my skill, to another level.
It's also about empowerment, because my son has no control whether the kid's better than him or not. He doesn't even have control whether he can score a goal or not.
Right.
A lot of times soccer, those kids soccer,
Right.
What he does have control over is what his attitude is when he makes a mistake.
Right.
See, I just empower my son because he can't lose, because he has a choice to have a good attitude, to be oriented towards growth every time he makes a mistake. I want to ingrain that in him at young, because I wasn't ingrained in that. So I made all kind. I was stagnant. I didn't want to grow. I couldn't face the negative. I did all kind of issues until I got in my 30s and 40s. Then I'm like, wait a second, that's not how I want to live. So I want to teach my kids that way. So I think we start with that orientation.
And praise the Lord, your kids have a godly mom and dad who love them and who understand these things, and you've created a culture of growth, which I think is highly unusual, unfortunately, in our culture today. Most of us need somebody to push us.
Right.
And I'm talking a healthy push. Like, if you didn't grow up, taking care of your body or working out or exercising, or maybe you're struggling with a weight issue and it's just frustrating. What I found, this is why many people have a personal trainer or they have a partner.
Right.
Like, if you tell me I'm going to show up, let's agree together. We're going to show up at 6:00,
right.
3 days a week. If I love you and care about you, I'm not going to leave you standing there at the Y going, hey, where's Pastor Ron? I thought he agreed, because that's a lack of character on my part.
Sure.
So the fact that we come together and we do something together is actually an impetus for growth. That's why the purpose of a life group, being committed to marriage class or going through a discipleship process where everybody agrees to certain things. This is the structure sometimes that's necessary to create an environment where growth happens.
Well, and that's why, like for us at Living Stones Church, we feel like this is the Great Commission to make disciples of all nations. What is discipleship? Is to lead people into growth, to become more like Jesus. That is our call. So to me, as a follower of Jesus, if you truly follow Jesus, growth is non-negotiable. You can't just be like, I want to be a Christian, but I don't really want to grow. No, that's not our call to be like Christ. Our call is for discipleship, which means you have to grow. Yep. So let's just define that. That to me is clarity of the gospel.
Spiritual growth is not optional.
Yeah, well, just grow discipleship. I mean, Jesus talks about your body. It talks about, it's ownership of everything. So out of that context, to me, if I say someone say I want to grow, I'm like, well, first of all, you need to understand there's a cost to be paid.
Yeah.
There's a price to be paid to growth.
So let's talk about that, because that's again where people, well, hiring somebody to be a personal trainer costs money.
Yeah. Or it takes time to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Or
or
try new things.
Or I always find this funny, So you should be investing in places that are good for you and cause you to grow. Like, how many of you have found out? Like, if you're going to eat better, it costs more money to eat better.
Yep.
You can go to a fast food restaurant and get the value meal all day long. To eat good food, though, it costs money. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, man, my bill's going up because we're buying, like, healthy stuff.
Yeah.
But if the goal is growth, there's an investment. Or I find this all the time, too. All the church cares about is your money. How ridiculous. Do you grow at your church? Do you like the people at your church that are ministering to you?
Yeah.
Do you like the materials that you're getting? That class that you're taking, they cost some money because you have to actually buy a book or you have to buy a binder. I had somebody tell me one time, well, we come to this church and we give money to this church. Why should we have to pay money for a book that you're going to keep and you're going to read, or for notes that have been prepared for you that you're going to keep? Here's the simple solution to this simple question. You're making an investment because it matters and it's going to help you grow. Yeah. Don't whine about making an investment that's going to help you grow. But people do it all the time. It's like this entitlement mentality that everybody owes me something and growth should be easy.
Right. Well, growth is not easy. Yeah. Growth is intentional, and growth, again, that's why it's painful. But we at Living Stones believe growth is so important, so crucial to the gospel, that we have oriented our ministries around growth. Because we believe, again, for you to grow, you need to be in great relationships. That's why we have life group. We have all kind of communities and youth life groups and so forth. There is a curriculum you need. That's why we have Sunday service. We have marriage class, parenting class. There's a curriculum, there's a teaching, and there's a training element. That's why we have opportunity for people to serve, because you grow the best when you're doing something with your hands and you're on the job training.
And this is a principle I learned from my father. It sounds, to the person who's looking for the easy path, it sounds mean. But for instance, at Livingstone, you call up and say, Pastor, we're having marital problems. Can we meet with you? My answer will be yes. Our doors are wide open. We're accessible. We're highly accessible. We love you. We want to know you. We want to know your story. But here's the second question. Pastor, can we meet with you again and again and again and again for our marriage? I would say no. Here's why. We have people who love you and who are skilled and who are providing 2 hours of marriage ministry every single Sunday. And if you cannot make a sacrifice and make an investment and make a commitment to be there on Sunday afternoon from 4 to 6, if your marriage is not a personal priority enough to stretch, grow, make sacrifices, then why are you asking me to make a greater sacrifice for your marriage than you are willing to make for yourself? And unfortunately in ministry, we see this all the time. Yeah. I've seen the same thing with people with addiction. We have a great ministry that helps get your heart healed, helps deal with habits, hang-ups, and all that stuff. It's called Celebrate Recovery. It's not just for addiction. It's much broader than that. But if you're struggling with hurts, habits, and hang-ups, get there so you can have people who are waiting there to help you. But again, if your issues are not painful enough or not priority enough for you to make the sacrifice, then why are you expecting other people to give of their time, their money, their resources to help you when they want to help you more than you want to help yourself?
Right, that's good.
Okay, that's a hard statement, but you know what? It's the truth.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've heard this, people do not get delivered until they get desperate. Don't get to where the problem and the pain is so, monumental,
right,
that now you got to deal with a crisis mode. Face the elephant in the room in your life, and get a proactive strategy to, first of all, kill the elephant, get the elephant out of your life, and then move into victory and success. God wants to do it. We want to help you with that. But the question is, how desperate are you?
Yeah, and so in the day, I asked the question, are you willing to pay the price of growth? Because it's not a cheap price to pay, but it's so worth it. Yeah, but if you are, like Pastor Ron said, we as Livingstone will come alongside of you if you're willing to pay that price, because we are willing to pay the price to help you.
Absolutely.
And we come along with all these different things. We design these different ministries to help you grow because we believe that's our call. Amen. We don't do it because we have to. We do it because we want to. We love it. Helping you grow.
So all this ties together.
Absolutely.
Because here's the other thing. We're telling you, quit making excuses. Quit blaming everybody else. Quit coming up with this or that, or why you can't do this, or why you can't change, or why your marriage won't work, or why Jesus won't forgive you, or why. This is all part of what we're talking about. Have integrity. You'll either live in that world, pushing the buck, elephant in the room, don't want to face the problems, or what we're talking about today, you'll develop a proactive strategy where you really embrace you, face your issues, let people in, trust people to speak into your life. Everybody's not your enemy. People love you. They want to help you. Change your stinking thinking and begin to build a structured plan for freedom and for liberty. And life should be fun in the midst of all the challenges. Thank God we have a Savior, and thank God we have the body of Christ. You don't have to do it alone. Yeah. Get into the pleasure mode when you're enjoying what you do, enjoying who you're with.
And I want to say this, not every church is oriented towards growth.
No.
There are other churches, I've been to churches that they just interested in coming to their church on Sunday.
Yeah.
They're not interested to say, hey, are you growing? They just want to, I don't want to speak for their motivation, but they're not, from my perspective, they're not truly invested in their growth. We are. We really believe this is a crucial part of the gospel.
And I say we're talking about a congregation of leaders. We do two things at Livingstones. We grow people. People are our focus. In fact, what we're talking about today, this is what our ministry vision is. Grow people. And then multiply leaders, which means as you get healed and grow and you become free and you have a track record of victory, now you're able, in fact, you have a responsibility. The Bible says, freely you've received, now freely give. So, I love what Ivan Tate said, become the medicine. You receive the medicine, Now you become the medicine. And to me, that's an exciting culture to be in, where people want to grow. We want to get the last 10%. We want to hear the truth. We want to apply the truth. We want to live lives of victory. I want to be a part of a church like that.
That's the vision. We have a culture of growers, or have a culture of people who encourage each other. We're sharing each other visions and dreams. We're encouraging each other, and that just grows and spreads. Or we can go in the opposite directions, and everyone's stifled. And you have a vision and dream, it probably won't work anyway. It's probably going to die anyway.
Let's become part of a culture where no one's going anywhere. Everybody's blaming everybody. We ignore problems. We blame everybody else for the problems, and we're miserable. I've seen cultures like that. I don't want to be a part of those kind of cultures. But let's end with what I believe is a really, really important point, because integrity means you're growing in all the dimensions of your life, not just one. Like I've seen some people say, I want to get better health. Mm-hmm. And so they spend all their time in the health club, pumping iron and drinking protein shakes. Mm-hmm. And then their spiritual life is non-existent because all they're concerned about is growing their biceps. Right. Like what's that? Or, we use the example of an athlete. An athlete might take great time in the precision or learning their skill, whether it's golf, mm-hmm. whether it's baseball, whether it's, catching bombs on Sunday in football, whatever, shooting free throws. I mean, it doesn't matter what the sport is. And yet their personal life can be a train wreck. We see all the time. People sign multi-million-dollar contracts because they're incredibly gifted in a certain skill. Maybe it's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but then they neglect their marriage. They have an affair. They have a substance abuse problem. Their character is not maintained.
Or even some pastors.
Absolutely.
Who,
we see that all the time.
Dealing drugs on the side and just whatever.
Yeah. Leading a mega church, writing books, and then cheating on their wife or sleeping with a prostitute. I mean, God help us. But the point is that happens when there's not a balanced approach to growth.
Yeah, and Henry Cloud mentioned that. He says that's because growth is not really integrated into who they are. A truly integrated person, no compartments in their life. When their growth, it's dynamic. They might not be the best football player, they might not have the best health, but in every arena, they're thinking, how can I grow? Right. Or they're just compensating for something. Someone who's all they do care about is how they look in the gym, look in the mirror. They don't care about their mental growth, intellectual growth, spiritual growth. They're just compensating for something.
Right. And we're not talking about this self-help, self-improvement idol that is so big in America today, where I can just see a selfish man might listen to this podcast and go, you know what? I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to hire 3 personal trainers. I'm going to get, protein drinks shipped to my house. And then you got your wife going, honey, we're in debt. The kids need shoes. I hear this all the time from wives, or the husband goes out and buys the boat because pastor said we need to relax. Mm-hmm. And the wife's like, the couch is falling apart, or the carpeting is falling apart, or, what about this, that, or the other? In other words, don't make this an ego, selfish-driven thing. That's not the message at all.
When I hear that, what I think, I'm like, you need to first grow your relationship with your wife because you clearly are not on the same page with her.
Yeah, your wife's more important than your biceps.
Yeah, grow that relationship. If you're really integrated, grow your relationship with your wife or your kids, and then you can make the right decision about what to do.
Exactly.
Grow relationship with Jesus first. How about that? Get that relationship right.
Amen. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these other things that are important will fall into play. But here's the bottom line: if you be committed to realizing that you have the privilege and opportunity to grow the rest of your life, like your best you should be the second before you expire and go on to be with Jesus. I mean, you should be on a continual track of learning new things, experiencing new things, and growing in every dimension of your life. To me, that's an exciting vision. Absolutely. You should not become fossilized. You shouldn't become a dinosaur, an old fossil that we go look at in the museum. God help us. I'm speaking to myself as I'm saying this, The challenge is keep reinventing yourself. Keep growing. Keep learning. Keep loving. Keep being a better husband, spouse, mom, aunt, uncle, whatever it is that you are, employee, servant of the Lord, whatever it is, there's room to grow. That is an exciting vision. So let's embrace it, and let's embrace the help along the way. We need each other to make this happen.
Amen.
All right. Thanks so much. In fact, I hope watching this podcast that we are helping you in the very things that we're talking about today. So help us spread the word, like us, share us, and introduce others. If you hear something in particular, pass it on to a friend. But let us know again how we can make this better and better all the time, and how we can speak to issues that are relevant in your life. So any final comments on that?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Sure you're growing.
Have a great week. We'll look forward to getting back with you on next Thursday when we launch our next version of the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast. Blessings to you.